Well, then how are we going to know it didn't work? Someone
We're live.
else?
Yeah, when they are posting, like, hey, we can't hear you, or something like that. Hi, friends. I'm assuming we're live.
Also, hi, enemies. Hi, anyone who's watching.
Yes, to anyone who's watching.
To whom it may concern.
It looks like we are live. It is Friday afternoon. It is slightly after 3 o'clock. And this is the first installment of what may become a regular thing called Ask Alter Ego. I just came up
Black
with that.
Panther Friday! Oh, sorry.
We could call it Black Panther Friday or Ask Alter Ego. Ask Alter Ego. Earlier this week, we requested questions from you on Facebook about anything and everything, but mostly comics and pop culture and games, those sorts of things. And we received several questions, which we will get to today. So let's start with the first one here. Really, I should have printed these out. We'll just go this way. First question is from Jess. She wanted to know if we could read only one character's story for the rest of our lives. Who would it be? Josh. And no, that's not me wanting to read Josh's story.
Oh,
it would be interesting, though.
Yeah,
I'm
it
sure.
would be interesting in parts. I'm not wild about the implied parts of the question, because I don't really follow characters. I tend to follow creators. You know, I love Daredevil, I love Spider-Man, but there are people...
Ooh, hey, we're live.
The audio's working.
Implied parts of the question?
Sorry. There are runs of Daredevil and Spider-Man that I absolutely abhor and don't want to ever read again, but I love those characters, so I would totally want to follow them. But if I had to pick one specific character to follow, it would probably be Morpheus, Dream from Neil Gaiman's Sandman, because his story is kind of all stories, and Gaiman sort of always did whatever he wanted to, so there's a wide breadth of stories that could be told in that, and it's one of my favorite comics of all time.
A single character. So this is not a comic that we would follow for the rest of our lives. It would be a single character. You know what? I think I would go with Spider-Man. Or Batman. One of the... I'll go with Spider-Man.
Or Superman. The Hulk!
Spider-Man was really the first character that I got into as a kid. Mm-hmm. And I think his story is very relatable to people, kind of a down-on-his-luck person who... Everything that can go wrong usually does go wrong for Pete. But he's got these great powers, and...
Also great responsibility.
How does he balance the powers and the responsibility? I think I could be interested in that for the rest of my life. So
Hi, Ed, also from Ohio.
Yes, and if you're joining us, please sound off. Let us know where you're from. I guess you could be from outside of Ohio, but sound off. Let us know.
There are places outside
you're
of Ohio.
Here.
People live there. Jess is outside of Ohio right now, I believe. So
yes. Next question. Thank you, Jess, for your question. Next question. Ben posted an image, actually, which
how this is going to work.
We have printed out. I'm sure that's fine. Well, you know what? I'll talk for another second. Let Josh hold that there.
It's not very close. Too low.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's awful.
Okay. So Ben posted this image on his movie page, and he's interested to know who we think would win and how. So which of these four teams would win and how?
Okay, so the top team is Black Panther, Cyborg, looks like Ben Affleck, Batman, Scarlet Witch, and Falcon. The next team down, these are all color-themed team. All those characters are wearing black in the top team. Next team down is Team Red. We've got Deadpool, Ant-Man, Iron Man, The Flash, and Scarlet Witch from the Avengers. Then Team Blue, Supergirl, Doctor Strange, Superman, Captain America, and Wonder Woman. And then Team Green, Gamora, Vision, Hulk, Aquaman, and Green Arrow. You want to answer first?
I would probably go with Team Blue.
Yeah, it's not even close. The only people on this thing that have even a chance of beating Superman is Doctor Strange and maybe Scarlet Witch if it's the version where her powers are magic-based. But in a straight fight, Superman will take everyone else on this list by himself.
But then you throw in Superman, Supergirl, and Wonder Woman, who essentially are all at the same power level.
The least powerful person on this team is Captain freaking America. So
I'd say Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange can manipulate time and reality.
Right, but if he can't get his hand, if his hands are bound and if he can't speak or something, he
doesn't need his hands. The whole
does.
point
He's
was
like,
his hands were broken. That was...
He's got that whole speed up, slow down, speed up,
Dormammu,
slow down.
I come to bargain.
He does have a fine collection of watches, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of raw power, the bottom team is really strong with the Hulk and Vision and Gamora. But yeah, there's no way. Flash is the only person on here who could even survive long enough to fight Superman and Supergirl with their super speed, and he wouldn't stand against both of them. Also, I'd like to point out that this is Justice League version Flash, who's a little flakier and not as experienced as adult Barry Allen. So
there we go. We're both in agreement. We're in agreement, Ben, that
margin.
Team Blue would be the winner of the teams that you posted. So thank you for your question.
I mean, Batman's pretty good, but yeah, no,
he's only immortal. He would be amortal, not immortal. Jessica wants to know how many Loki sightings have happened at the Olympics, and that is a throwback to a comment that my 8-year-old son made the first night of the Olympics as they were opening on figure skating, and my kid took a look at Johnny Weir and said, "Who's that? Loki, the god of mischief?" So every time that Johnny Weir has been on screen, there has been a Loki sighting, and we had a great customer, one of our online customers, Chris, actually doctored up the photo and put Johnny Weir in the Loki costume, and we posted that on Facebook, so hopefully you got a chance to see it. If not, go check it out. But Loki is all over the P.F. Chang Olympics. What is it? Pyeongchang? And I can't do it, sorry. I should stop now. Corey wants to know if anyone here are gamers. Are you much of a video gamer these days? You used to be. But...
I'm not. But again, I'm super pedantic and lawyery. But I would say the question actually isn't super relevant because video games become so pervasive. You know, my grandmother and my sisters and my parents and everyone plays video games on their phone or on Facebook.
Your grandmother plays video games?
Yeah, my grandma bought me my first Nintendo, and we shared Metroid. I would have to take it to her house so she could beat levels and then bring it back to mine.
That's a great story.
Yeah, but so like video games have become so pervasive culturally that I'm not sure it's something that everybody does, but I don't know if it's an identifier thing. Like I would not introduce myself as a gamer, but I've played video games my entire life. I still play video games semi-regularly. I don't have as much time as I used to, but I do get into it. I tend to gravitate towards your RPGs, big open world stuff like Bethesda and Fallout, and obviously I love Star Wars games like Knights of the Old Republic. And obviously all of those are kind of older franchises at least, but
I am not. I grew up.
I just said that everyone plays games, and Mark's like, nope,
I grew up
not
in the
me.
age of the Atari 2600. I like Space Invaders and Pac-Man.
Adventure?
And simple games. I did kind of like Adventure,
Adventure was pretty awesome.
The only kind of modern game that I like is Guitar Hero.
Because that's only modern in
I
the
love
sense.
music, so I like Guitar Hero. I cannot play any other game. Minecraft makes me want to gouge my eyes out. I do not understand that game at all. My 8-year-old wants me to play Minecraft with him.
I'm not sure Minecraft is a game so much as it's like
it's a time waster.
Thing.
It's like
well, it's not. I mean, there's nothing
SimCity,
wrong with playing
maybe?
it, but again, I don't know. Yeah, it's a simulation.
I will say my
like
youngest
Legos.
has a Switch, got a Nintendo Switch for Christmas, and I have played Mario Kart Odyssey. Is it Mario Kart? No, Super Mario Odyssey and Mario Kart. I played Mario Kart with him a few times, and that I can handle because it's just driving a car. And throwing banana peels and bombs and things like that. And it took me several tries to figure out what to do with the items that I picked up in the game. So thank you, Corey, for that question.
Alex, who works here, is the biggest gamer on the staff.
Yeah, and I was going to drag him in, but I'll like trip over something if I try and leave the table. So maybe
he's just going to come in and say yes. So.
Yes, Alex plays all kinds of games.
He
has every device known to man, and he also has the older devices. He buys Super Nintendo games whenever he sees them and that sort of thing. So Alex is the biggest gamer on staff. Video game. I think Katrina...
Board games is probably...
No. I mean, board games are her jam, but she plays video games.
Oh, she does, yeah. But yeah, not more than Alex, I don't think.
And then it goes like this. Alex, Katrina, Josh, Amanda, me. I think.
This is probably a far more involved answer to the question than you were looking for.
Yeah, so there you go, Corey. You know a whole lot more about us.
You've seen the pyramid of gaming at Alter Ego.
Yes. Josh would like to know, not this Josh, another Josh.
Maybe I want to know.
Now that Millarworld has been purchased, or is it Millar? I believe it's Millarworld, has been purchased by Netflix, which property are you most excited to see made into a TV series or a movie? You want to field that one first?
Sure. I'm trying to make sure because so they would only have the rights to his create their own stuff. So Huck, I guess, would be really good. I would watch a Huck. But I think really the interesting part about the Millarworld buyout is not going to be, it's going to be new stories going forward, not existing stories converted. I mean, it's like Kingsman's Secret Service. I mean, that was basically written as a movie and a comic at the same time, which is why they are fairly different, even though they're sort of the same core story. They were kind of being simultaneously developed mutually, and I think that's really where it's going to be going forward. Seeing new projects come from the mind of Mark Millar with Netflix budget and effects could be pretty cool.
Yeah. That's not to say that they won't be.
Oh no, I'm sure. I mean, you've got them. You'll do it.
I'm excited about Chrononauts. I think that would be interesting as a film and possibly as a series. You know, if they do kind of the time travel aspect and pull a Voyagers or a I'm going way back to
Sliders?
Voyagers.
Wait, that was Dimensions. No?
So I could Chrononauts. What's the one with the old guy who's like a John Carter?
Majestic?
No.
It's like a one-word title, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
So it was in the ad at the end of Kick-Ass this week. That one, if you know what I'm talking about, there's an old guy on Earth. He's probably in his 70s or 80s, and he has an opportunity to go back to an alien world through some sort of time portal or something.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
I don't know
it was very much
who we'd cast it.
Very much a John Carter of Mars sort of thing.
But like John Carter, like a old John Carter, like
yeah,
it's like it's not the same kind of thing. But
Josh will continue looking for that.
I will look it up, but I don't even know who I would cast in that. Bruce Willis, maybe.
Honestly, anything that Miller has done. I mean, even things like Superior, and there was the one
Nemesis.
Nemesis, and I heard rumors that Nemesis was actually in development as a film a couple of years ago, but who knows? And I think that was either Ridley Scott, it might have been Tony Scott, who's no longer around. Which is why we may not have seen any progress on that. Okay, next up, Jeff. Okay, answer me this, says Jeff. I'm reading a story.
Says the little red hen.
Why is there no Shazam comic? The dude has a movie next spring. Surely I'm not the only fan of the big red cheese. I don't know what cheese you're eating, Jeff, that's big and red, but you should probably stay away from it.
And don't call me Shirley.
I think it's bad. So here is the answer to your question. I will answer it in a number of different ways.
Mark is conversationally anal retentive.
By the time that the Shazam movie hits big screens, there will be a Shazam comic, is my prediction. Why there is no Shazam comic now, and why there has not been a Shazam comic for many moons, yes, is that, in my humble opinion, Shazam is not a character that can carry his own comic. Shazam works better when he's part of a team, when he's as are many characters. When Jeff Johns was writing Justice League, it was cool seeing Shazam as part of that team. It really depends on which version of Shazam we're talking about here. If we're talking about the kind of the New 52,
Starlight
was the Mark
Carter
Millar
book.
series, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I just don't think that there is enough public interest and even comic book fan interest to support a Shazam solo series. A miniseries, absolutely. They could do what they've done with Raven and Deadman and the Demon and all these characters, and that's why we don't have an ongoing for any of these characters, is because they would go 12 issues in and they would be selling so few copies it wouldn't be worth it. But to do a 6-issue miniseries, test the waters. If that's successful, try a 12-issue miniseries or another 6-issue miniseries, and do that every couple of years, and you're going to keep people's interest. But sadly, I think he's one of those characters. You've already got Superman out there, and Shazam is very similar from a power set base to Superman. I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, and I think he's also part of the whole rebirth equation, that has the JSA being kind of in limbo, and the Legion, and all the other kind of more eccentric parts of the DC universe are kind of in holding. But yeah, we'll see him before the movie's out.
I'm going to make a bold prediction.
Statement.
My first prediction was that we will see some sort of Shazam comic book by the time the Shazam movie hits.
We will send a man to the moon and bring him back.
I'm going to predict that will be written by Peter Tomasi.
I'd read that. Peter Tomasi writes kids really well, so
we shall see. So thank you, Jeff, for that question. Ed has a question, and Ed, I think, is still joining us. I haven't flashed back to the screen to see if anyone's asking anything. Jessica says it's poker. Hello, Nicole from Finley. Cody is a big fan of Fallout. Ed liked Voyagers. That's awesome. You know what, Ed? I used to have the DVD box set on that, and I don't know what happened to it. My older kids had a chance to watch it when they were about my youngest age, so about 8. We would watch Voyagers, and if my dad's still watching, Dad, you and I used to watch Voyagers together when it was on CBS or whatever channel it was on. But it's not on any of the streaming services. I don't think Voyagers is on any of the streaming services. It was very briefly. All right, now I think we're caught up with all the comments, so thank you, those of you that are joining us, Ed, Cody, Jessica, Dad, and Nicole, and anyone else who decides to, hang out for a little bit. So, I don't know what's happening here. Oh, there we go.
Swipe left, swipe right. Oh no, now we're dating someone.
Okay, let's get to our next question from RC, Radio Control.
I think you just skipped Ed.
Oh, he did it.
You never read his question.
Ed's question is there any comic property that hasn't been translated into film or TV yet that you would like or love to see? Wow. There's a ginormous library of content to cover with that. And I should say we did not prepare to answer these in advance, so this is really off the cuff. Even that thing we printed out, we both looked at it right before we answered it. So, Josh, you go first.
If the restriction is not actually released yet, I would say Sandman. I would love to see that as like an HBO miniseries or a Netflix series. There's a lot you could do, like almost like a Twilight Zone anthology in the Sandman universe. But if it's something that hasn't been mentioned, because Sandman's been in development as a movie and a TV show multiple times for the past 20 some odd years. I haven't heard anything official about a Madrox series, and I would love to see Peter David's Madrox, Peter David's X Factor, Jamie Madrox, kind of noir humor X-Men adventure would be great.
Well, they did make the announcement that someone was looking at making a Madrox film.
It was
over at 20th
Franco.
Century Fox.
Franco.
Oh,
was
that's right.
interested in
James
playing
Franco
Jamie.
was going to play.
But
Jamie
now
Madrox.
he's not.
Now he's
not
persona
in
non
vogue,
grata.
so.
Yes, he is persona non grata in Hollywood.
It's okay. We'll get his buddy to do it. Rogan.
No. But I too it's low on my list. But yes, I would be interested in seeing a Peter David X Factor era where Madrox was leading the team. That was really good. If you have not read that, please, we implore you. You owe it to yourself to do that. I'm still holding out hope for Why the Last Man, which has been in development for probably more than a decade, with various people attached to it. Shia LaBeouf was attached at one point. I think, I don't know who else. I think right now it's possibly at HBO, looking at doing a kind of a maxi series sort of thing. There are things in development now that I'm very much looking forward to. Lock and Key, which is in development over at Hulu.
Sex Crims has got a deal,
yeah,
right?
Sex Criminals is in development.
Which I have no idea how that works as a TV show. But
I would love to see Saga. I would
Saga. Well, that's also Vaughn's got a deal on it. It's just not an immediate thing.
There is so much, especially on the indie front, that is in development. The
Quantum and Woody,
the Brubaker one.
The Fade Out or
Criminal? I
Kill
think
or
they're
Be Killed?
both. Fade Out and Criminal are both in development.
Okay, and I heard Kill or Be Killed had a maybe
that wouldn't surprise me either.
Deal
Yeah, those are all. Any of Ed Brubaker's stuff would be outstanding. I would watch Invincible. Hey, Robert Kirkman's Invincible. I would love to see that as a TV series.
Yeah, that would work best as a series.
Oh yeah, that has to be a TV series.
Like on the CW.
There's so much stuff. That's not capes and tights. I mean, there's all we haven't even mentioned. Well, we talked about Madrox, but
and Invincible is capes and tights.
Yeah,
They're
but
superheroes.
it's indie stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, who knows? We are definitely in the golden age of comic books and comic book properties in the media. So anything is possible. I think at this point, and especially with creator-owned properties. In many cases, and we saw this with Mark Millar, and I think we've seen this a couple other times, the property has actually been snapped up before the first issue has come out yet. So Hollywood is after comic book stuff because they are truly out of original ideas.
It's not true.
It's been that way for quite a while. Name an original movie that's been out in the last 2 or 3 years.
Arrival.
That had mega success.
Okay, so we're
something
looking
on the level of an 80s Spielberg movie, or that would be considered a blockbuster that's not based on something else.
that's not based on something else.
Yeah.
Well, right, but no, I wasn't objecting to the fact that they're mining the ideas. I was objecting to the fact they're doing it because they're out of ideas. They're doing it because even if there's one random comic on the internet, there's more name recognition. It's easier to get somebody. Yeah, it's about the fact that it costs $200 million to make a movie, and you don't risk $200 million on a whim, on
Like
a flight
they
of
used
fancy. Well, no, because then it was $5 million. Or I mean, what did they make Star Wars for? 10? It was like supposed to be 8. They went to 10. They might have gone a little over,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's not.
Ed agrees with me. That's all you need.
That's fine. He tried
Hollywood
to
is
skip
out
your
of
question,
ideas.
Ed.
Thank you for the question, RC, that we didn't get to.
We're getting to it now, though, right?
Yeah, what? Why am I all over the place?
I don't
on
know,
this?
man.
RC had a question. Do we read Star Wars comics? Josh does. I do sometimes. I think Disney's actually doing a better job than Lucas did with the prequels. I agree. Disney did piss me off with Rogue One. I disagree. I felt like this is part of the question. It's a build-up. I felt like Jyn Erso stole Kyle Katarn's legacy of stealing the Death Star plans. If you guys are fans of the classic Star Wars comics, do you know if Kyle Katarn... Help me out. Pronunciation? Katarn?
I think it's Katarn because
Katarn?
so that character is from before they used voice acting in games. So I don't know that I've ever heard his name said out loud.
Stole
but I
that
believe it's
legacy
Katarn.
from anybody else. Did Disney do anything else to ruin the series, in your opinion? I'll let you do this.
Hey, let me do this?
Yeah.
Oh, good. It's okay, man. First off, I guess if we want to be technical about it, none of that stuff matters. Disney broke continuity. Disney broke continuity. So the Dark Forces video game and Jedi Knight and Jedi Academy are all out of continuity at this point. I prefer to look at it, the whole canon break, if you will, not so much as none of that stuff happened, but it's like parallel realities. When we read a what if comic, other than the core assumption, what if Jean Grey had survived being the Phoenix, we assume the rest of the universe is the same until something tells us otherwise. When we read an Elseworlds comic, we assume it's basically the same as the main universe until we see a difference. So I still assume all of that stuff is true until it's contradicted in our new timeline. Because we're Marty McFly in 1985 and Biff is running the place. There isn't anyone in the comics who stole the legacy from Kyle Katarn. Kyle Katarn actually stole it a little bit on his own. The original version of the Death Star plans in the script is fleshed out slightly, just a little bit here and there. It shows up in the first and third drafts from the Journal of the Wills for A New Hope. And then we got the biggest extant version of that you'll see is in the radio drama scripts from Brian Daley. Where Leia you hear Leia talk about how she and her father found out about the building of the Death Star, decided to renounce their pacifist ways for Alderaan, and use their political office as cover to help steal the plans, and then basically sets up essentially the beginning of where we see in A New Hope, which I guess still sort of jives with the Rogue One version. And then that version got reiterated in the X-Wing video game. You actually fly cover for some of the missions where they go and steal the plans and stuff at the Battle of Taparawa. And then that version was changed in Dark Forces where Kyle Katarn steals them, but then Kyle Katarn's version gets rewritten again in Force Unleashed. Pretty much every video game, because in video games you want to do the most exciting part of the story. Stealing the Death Star plans has been done a bajillion times in video games. There's even the one video game that runs parallel to Kyle Katarn's stuff in Dark Forces. I think it's called Legacy or Lethal Alliance. I think it was. It was a portable only game. So there's just a lot of different versions of that story. I think the way they kind of recombined a lot of it so that it made as much sense as was feasible with the book Death Star. I believe it was by James Luceno, maybe 10 years ago. That stuff is all kind of out the window now with Rogue One, because Rogue One is now the definitive canon version. But it's also important to remember that one of the ways they did get the pieces together is there's more than one piece of information that could be necessary. There could be, there's no reason Kyle Katarn couldn't have went to get some other piece of information that was necessary to destroy the Death Star. It doesn't invalidate Katarn's work. It just, it is what it is. The way when I saw Timothy Zahn in 2000, nope, not 2000. Wow, it was a long time ago. Timothy Zahn shortly after Attack of the Clones, so it would have been 2003. He said, people asked him, how do you feel about the things you had said in your books being rewritten? And he's like, well, we're all playing in George Lucas's driveway. We can't really complain when he backs out and runs over our toys. Well, now it's Disney's driveway, and they're going to run over whatever they want to run over. So I don't think they destroyed anything. I think they're doing as good a job as I could expect anyone to do with the legacy of Star Wars. So
that was Josh talking a lot about Star Wars. And RC, that is why I turned this over to Josh, because he is the master of all things Star Wars. If anyone else has Star Wars questions in the future, please address those directly to Josh, and he will be happy to answer those for you. Let's see. Julia's watching us now. Thank you, Julia, for joining us. If anyone's still awake, I was expecting our viewers to drop at that point, but we've picked up a viewer since the Star Wars soliloquy that started. Cody has a question. What are our thoughts on Brian Michael Bendis taking on the Superman titles? What would be that's question number 1. Question number 2, what would our dream team creators to take on an Avengers or Justice League title be? We've talked about this a little bit in the weekly show in Comics Are Awesome, but I think we're both very excited about Bendis moving over to DC and the potential for him to write these characters that he's never written before after spending 20 years over at Marvel and the amazing stuff that he did. Now, we did some people have criticized a little bit that, Bendis didn't hit a home run every time, but he's got a pretty solid track record, or batting average, I should say. Keep with the same analogy there.
Well, and I think the important thing to remember there, and batting average is actually a good analogy, because I don't know anything about sports, but I would imagine the longer your career is, the lower your average is. Just because the more you hit, the less frequently you hit on average. And Bendis did he did the Avengers for almost a decade. He was on Ultimate Spider-Man forever. He output, and Mark Miller has probably written more great comics than Brian Bendis, but his output over the same time period is minuscule in comparison. Bendis is out there every day.
It's not a fair comparison, because Miller writes 6-issue stories,
right?
And Bendis is writing 100-issue stories, or things that go on for 5, 6, 7 years or longer. It's not a fair comparison. So I think Bendis as a creative person, he is one of the top 3, I would say, of the last 25 years. In comics. So to see what he's going to do with Superman, both of us have really enjoyed Peter Tomasi and Patrick Gleason's run on Superman. We're sad to see them leave, but they will move on to something else that I'm sure will be great, and Bendis will be able to write...
Tomasi for Shazam.
Yes, Bendis will be able to take on Superman in Action Comics. Bendis, born and raised in Cleveland. Raised, I assume. I know he was born in Cleveland. Superman, created in Cleveland, so this is kind of a cool thing, and... whatever else he gets to tackle in the DC universe, he's never written Batman or Wonder Woman, no one at DC. So excited about it. As far as Dream Team on Avengers, I don't have anyone off the top of my head.
Avengers or Justice League, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I got nothing.
Tom King and Lee Weeks.
Oh, on Justice League or Avengers?
Avengers. I don't care. Anything.
Tom King, right? Yeah. You know what? Tom King. Because he played in the Marvel Sandbox with Vision, he's been on Batman since Rebirth started, and he's now doing Mr. Miracle. He did the Swamp Thing story recently. He can play in either of the big two's playgrounds and is a fantastic writer. So yes, I agree. And Lee Weeks, one of my favorite artists. He doesn't do a lot of work, but he's doing covers for the Deathstroke Batman thing that's coming up. But he also did the annuals, and he did Batman Elmer Fudd and other stuff. So yes, Tom King and Lee Weeks on either of those books would be excellent. Jason Fabok is one of my favorite artists now, so I would like to see him on either one. I like Raphael Albuquerque. I would see him on either one. It would definitely have a little bit of a different style. You know what I'd like to see? Scott Snyder Avengers. He's the anti-Bendis. He's been at DC for pretty much most of his career. He's done some very small things for Marvel early on, but yeah, let's do a trade. Scott Snyder for Brian Bendis and a player to be named later. There you go. Okay.
See, now that we're talking about it, I would actually, if you want to do a mini-series Avengers, I would like to see what Punk Rock Jesus...
Oh, yeah. That's who I was thinking of, actually. I had Albuquerque on the brain.
I can't think of his name.
Sean...
Murphy,
yes.
Sean Murphy could write and
Gordon
draw an
Murphy.
Avengers mini for me. That'd be all right.
Yes. I agree. Okay. All right. looks like we haven't had anything new comment-wise, so let's move on to the next question. And I believe it is our last question. I got to get back because my screen decided to melt down here. Too many questions. Not really. We appreciate the questions. Actually, this is a great one. It's an easy one. Cruz would like to know, what are you guys doing with the extra Avengers posters from No Surrender? We only have a handful.
Well, we're actually giving them out with the
with the second printing. Yes,
so
well, there you go, Cruz. We're giving out the posters free with the purchase of Avengers 675 second printing. We gave them out the first time around with the first printing of 675. So if you did not get a chance to get on board this 16-part storyline, No Surrender, which I believe is on part 5 now, perhaps.
Sure.
Promises the return of the Bruce Banner Hulk in about a month.
I thought you were going to say promises the return of Voyager.
Yes. Return of Voyager. That's the character. Return of Sentry and Voyager. That's the team-up book I would like to see. Sentry and Voyager, written by Tom King. That would be great. So there you go, Cruz. Those are available if you purchase Avengers 675 second print. And that, ladies and gentlemen, it was our last question. The inaugural installment of Ask Alter Ego. So we appreciate you taking time to send those questions to us, to hang out with us and either listen or watch our responses. And if you enjoyed this episode, please like it. Please share it, because the more interaction we get, especially thank you for those thumbs up and those hearts, the more interaction engagement we get, especially on Facebook, the more Facebook thinks that we are worthy and will show this to more people, especially those that are already following us on the Facebook. So thank you. More thumbs up. More I say. They're everywhere. If you'd like us to do this again, give us thumbs up. I'll just ask for thumbs up. If you're going to see Black Panther this weekend, give us thumbs up. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Google Play, we'd be happy for a review on the podcast. Look at all this. Holy moly.
They're all going to see Black Panther, obviously.
Yes, everyone's going to see Black Panther. This is going to be the highest rated video on Facebook, I think.
Yeah. No.
Thank you for watching. Remember, comics are awesome, and they're for everybody. See you next time. And now I have to get up.
Now while Mark walks
turn
over
off
there.
Josh will sing something.
Danke Shane, darling, Danke Shane, Danke.